Blazing screams, chaos unfolds, crimson law, tales retold, anime wars, blades collide, justice screams, nowhere to hide. Crimson law, judgment reigns, shock critique, breaking chains, blood red ink by the blade, true release for silverhead, elven base. Elven base. Neon skies, warriors clash, pixel worlds, honor smashed, battle cries, vengeance near, crimson's wrath, all shall fear. Thunder roars the verdict grim, mechs explode, lights grow dim, bloodlines torn, broken dreams, crimson law silencing screams. As heroes fall and villains rise, shattered dreams and severed ties, stand and fight, the time is nigh, rising up to do what's right. Crimson law, judgment reigns, shock critique, breaking chains, blood red ink by the blade, truth unleashed for silverhead, elven babes. Good evening, everyone. How are we doing on this, well, for me, cold, boring Saturday evening? Hello to Jeremy Turner and Muffler Tape. How you doing? Yo, sick, but trying to hang and see what's up. All right. Well, I mean, as far as what's up, I mean, there's a little bit of show and tell. I had a couple of interesting things come in this week. We got a lot of manga to talk about. A theatrical release to talk about. What the fuck was that? Then we have everything that we have the show that chat voted on. We have to go over what won this week, and then the usual live posting and everything. And also, as far as this goes, I got done with Visions of Esca-Flow and made myself dinner. And I only had about like 15 minutes to eat, so I pushed it back another 15 minutes. Hey, it's fine. I mean, I get it. The audiobook drive is a thing. Anyway, let us sort of get in and start the night out. Black Friday deals happened, and I figured I was going to pick up a couple of DVD sets for shows that Blu-ray sets in this case, for shows that I wanted to I actually really like. So I got Cowboy Bebop. So I believe this is the 25th anniversary. Yeah, it says right here on the back. 25-year anniversary. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. So there's that. I also managed to, pick up some other ones that aren't really so special, but they're good. Don the Don, and then My Dress Up Darling. The big one, though, that I got my hands on that I am really happy is I got myself a special. I got the special edition for ReZero Season 2. So that's a thing that I've got. So, yeah, that's basically been the thing that I haven't really spent a whole lot of money outside of manga and stuff. Because I've been cutting way back on spending after the couple. Since the holidays are around, I gotta buy gifts and everything. Kind of sucks. Either way, major thing to talk about tonight. We're gonna move into some of the manga now that we've kind of covered that, and we talked about this one, I believe, last week. But we're going to talk about it again since I am all the way caught up on all the manga that I have found released in volume form. So we are all the way up to volume 6.
And I gotta say, one of my big praises for this manga, it is kind of like the usual, I don't know, kind of like B tier isekai stuff, like the 6 or 7 kind of isekai. Um, but the bonus chapters for this are actually really fucking funny. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the bonus chapters for this are one of the funniest parts of this whole thing. It's entertaining. It doesn't it has its own like unique shtick with the whole hunting thing, talking about firearms and hunting regulations and all of that in great detail. So it has that going for it. It kind of has some of like the educational stuff, but um the plot to it's kind of, I don't know how I feel about it yet, but it's basically just one of those feel good mangas you would pick up because you want to read something dumb and with a little bit of levity. However, like I said, the bonus chapters for this are actually really funny because they all focus on the goddess who reincarnated our main guy Shin into this world, and there are like she is having a rough time. She's working a part-time job at like a hunting goods store. Gets hit by a truck and goes to heaven. Gets mauled by a bear and goes to heaven. Almost gets killed by an old granny because they accidentally made the ultimate dog killer concoction and then spilled it on the ground and the dog drank it. When I say they, the goddess isn't alone. She's also accompanied by an angel who's really bad at her job and is constantly mooching off of her. So it's basically this tag team of two idiots getting up to like as the bonus chapters, just getting up to absolute like bullshit in our world. So like genuinely, like the bonus chapters are 100% worth reading. A lot of times I don't actually find them all that interesting. Unfortunately, you don't get much in the form of etchy, but they are they are doing it a couple of times throughout the series. So 6 volumes in, I think they've done it a couple of times already. In fact, there was a whole joke where they ran away from the village on their wedding, the elf village on their wedding night, because apparently their village has a tradition of everyone watches newlywed couples instead of, just telling your kids about the birds and the bees. But don't worry, if you're looking for etchy, there's a couple of more entries in the manga list for tonight that you're probably going to want to pay attention to. So we'll move on down the line and we will go to one of my personal favorites, the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. Whew. So, this one, we get like as per usual with the 100 Girlfriends, we get introduced to a new girl. Her name is Kaho Eira, and that is in fact a pun on like I think it's a Brazilian martial arts form called capoeira, because that's what she's practicing. She's half Brazilian. She practices capoeira, and anything that she's not scared of anything that she can beat with physical attacks. So in her introduction, she stops a car. Anyway, I haven't spoiled everything about her. There's still some other stuff, and that's all I really wanted to like get into specifically for this volume. There are a couple of fun things. Like there's a bit of a reference to Turbo Granny in this. So for the Don people out there, you got a little bit of that. There's also a whole thing about like a couple of the girls making bread that it's hard to explain this without someone having read this, but basically each loaf of bread feels like one of the girl. It has the same softness as one of the girl's tits. Peak visual content. So yeah, I mean, I've liked this series. It's held up pretty well. There are times where it does hit slumps in the manga. There are times where I feel like it does kind of get and they do feel like they kind of rotate characters out. But in volume 16, we do get like a Shizuka focused chapter, and that is one thing it does to sort of keep all of the older characters rotated in. Is you will sometimes get chapters specifically focused on a character, giving them backstory or character development or something. And those tend to be a little bit more serious. So it was good. I was glad it came out. So now, like I said, there was going to be some of the more lewd stuff out there, and this is going to be the first entry of the night in that. So here we have Redo of Healer Light. This is called Rebel Hero. I will use my skills to control the scheming princess's heart and body. So this is like it has some interesting isekai elements. So this guy gets summoned into this world, got to defeat the demon lord and everything, except every single person in this world views him as less than human. They view him as a monster. They won't say that to his face, but that's how they view him. So they basically plan to just let him go wild and defeat the demon king and all that, take care of their problems, and then they're going to snuff him out before he becomes any more of a problem for them. They legitimately do not see him as they legitimately see him as less than human. That said, though, he gets a couple of interesting powers. So he gets the obviously completely broken isekai power of perfect counter, which any attack that is used against him is instantly reflected again back at the attacker. So he has a weird sort of immunity to actual damage. And then on top of that, he has the ability to send anyone to in between worlds, basically. So how this whole thing is set up is he finds out his third skill that he has is basically the appraisal skill, but it only works on people. So he can see what they're thinking, and he finds out that they all hate him really early on. And immediately is like, all right, you know what? Fuck it. I am going to play for my own interests since all of you are out to kill me. And he uses his ability to just his ability to transport people, specifically on the princess who wants to absolutely ruin his life and make him miserable. And that's where the lewd part comes in, because of course, included in his ability to transport people, he can equip them with whatever he wants, even if the thing does or doesn't exist. So he's using this ability to do some weird kinky torture stuff to the princess in her sleep. I believe one of the first things he does is put a blindfold on her that gives her wet dreams. What the hell, man? Rebel hero, you say? Yes. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a winner to me. And so far it's not terribly written, but again, it does fall into the B isekai sort of stuff. And the big appeal of it is just that it is Redo of Healer Light. And yes, just so everyone knows, just a full disclaimer and everything, there you will see titties. You will see some big old titties. I believe when he's experimenting with his powers, he sends her to his world, and she arrives completely naked. So there you go. Can he make someone's balls bigger? No, that is not something he can do. He can only, these isekai and those hella long titles, yeah. They do like to run their titles quite a bit. Unlike this next one, which is kind of in the same vein, since we're talking about nice titties. Whoops, that was the wrong button. I am not an isekai, okay? And I do not have big titties. There we go. This is the one. All right. This is what I wanted to do. So this is the ideal sponger life. This is going. Fair warning. This is another one of those more lewd isekai series. If you're averse to seeing uncensored titties, well, it's probably not necessarily going to be for you, because the whole premise of this is, our main character, who you see, featured prominently right here in her palm, is just your average salaryman who gets summoned to another world by a very clearly Spanish princess. Okay, so like the language that they use in the manga for this otherworld language is Spanish. Anyway, and to be fair, they all look like, Spanish women, so irrelevant. Basically the idea is that this lady here in the red hair, she is the queen of she is like basically the queen regent of this kingdom, and she is looking for a husband, basically, to secure her lineage. Basically, I need you to come fuck me so I can have kids, is the premise of this isekai. Now, there's a little bit more to it, and I don't want to specifically get into those details, but it takes on more of like a nation-building political intrigue theme, and the writing, actually fairly good so far. I'm about 2 volumes in, and I've actually liked what they've been doing with the story. The characters are entertaining. They do a little bit of gimmicky stuff with like him bringing over stuff from his world, so like electronics and all of that, so that he can like stay comfortable and everything. But it's been pretty good otherwise. Like, we've gotten a little bit into like some of the magic stuff, so he's not like completely overpowered, and it takes a while for him to learn magic and all of that, and yeah. But it is a pretty regular thing for them to since they're husband and wife, pretty early on, to get up to some stuff in the bedroom. And while they can be a little bit short, they do actually, give some detail to that. But that said, that's pretty much all the manga that I have kept up with this week. So, we are going to move on a little bit and talk about wasn't bad enough being a salaryman. Now he's got to have kids. Well, here's the thing is, I mean, his options are to basically live life as like a kept husband and just, make sure that the queen has some kids to pass down the throne to, or go back to working like a slave. First you had my interest. Now you have my erection. You would want to be a stay-at-home dad. Yes, I would. But yeah, so that's pretty much the manga section for tonight and everything that I have read this week, outside of the usual like 1 chapter a week for currently running series. Though I just usually talk about the stuff that I actually pay for. And now, before we get into the review of Visions of Esca-Flow, because that is one of the big things that we're doing tonight, I do want to talk a little bit about this fuckery here. Jujutsu Kaisen Execution. So I actually went to see this last night with friends because I wanted to see how it was, what was going on with Jujutsu Kaisen. I enjoy the series. It's fun. It's entertaining, but I by no means think it's like some masterpiece. A lot of people, I think, do put this way up farther on a pedestal than they should. But basically, what I will say is this is one of those previews for the upcoming season, not a movie. You don't need to see this. The new stuff that you will get out of this will come next season. And honestly, you're probably a little bit better off having skipped this and just gone straight to the season than having watched this. Because while the 2 episodes they do show you are cool, they only give you those 2 episodes. And the first part of that film, which is I think a little bit more than half of the time you'll be in the theater watching this, is recap from season 2. So they could have learned from Don Don's success in theatrical releases and gone with 3 episodes and minimal recap. But no, they spent a ton of time going over the Shibuya incident and all of that. And then you get into 2 episodes which have really good fight scenes and animation and a couple of really awesome lore drops, and they end on a very interesting cliffhanger. So it's cool content. It was fun to watch in theaters, like the experience of the new stuff for like 40 minutes in the theaters. Cool. But I think I had a better time with it just because I got to hang out with friends beforehand. Like me and my buddies went to dinner before this, and we're just like hanging out, catching up since we'd all been working different schedules and all of that. But since I saw it, I figured I'd talk about it. And again, not bad. Wasn't worth going. It's not worth a theater trip for. Just wait for the season to come out, and you'll have a really good time with the opening of the 3rd season of Jujutsu Kaisen. And with that being said, it's time we get to the titular discussion of the night. Visions of Esca-Flow. So, I was kind of looking forward to this one when I went into it. And I will say, it didn't disappoint me. But I do feel like a little bit of it. I guess I'm not on my review. Here we go. Where? Okay, I guess I got to go to my profile and then to my review. Why are you not doing this for me? Why are you not showing me my review? There we go. So, I gave this an 80. Now, that's a pretty good score. But that still puts it kind of like when it comes to isekai anime for me, an 80 is like a solid A tier isekai anime. And there are a lot of good things about this, but there are specifically things closer to the second half in the end that I did end up having a few problems with that kind of knocked points off for me. And we will get into that as we read through my review here on Criticless, and I will explain in a little bit more detail for those of you who are here with me live. So, Visions of Esca-Flow is a very interesting specimen when it comes to anime, being a bit of an older anime or entry to the isekai genre, as in it cropped up long before the Sword Art Online era of isekai was born. It has some rather good creative qualities that most modern variants don't tend to embrace. It mashes a fantasy world together with ancient technology conspiracies and a mecha flair for good measure. And the way this is handled is actually one of the best ways it can be done. It doesn't oversimplify the issues, like making their flying ships literal seafaring vessels with flight magic. That's one of the things that started to annoy me about a lot of more modern isekai, is their flying ships are just boats with wings sometimes. And it doesn't really try to overcomplicate things either. It doesn't go into meticulous detail about a lot of things, so it does a good job of suspending disbelief because it presents you with things that seem plausible and then doesn't try to elaborate on them too much. Even without detailed inner workings, plausible deniability holds up, and you get something that's pretty well written in that department. So like the whole mecha thing with the Gaimalex, I thought that was really cool. I like that they are more like mechanically focused in their nature and the way they operate. I also like that there are certain models that do different things. And they weren't ridiculously overcomplicated. Sure, some of them had interesting technology like liquid metal and like the liquid metal projectors and the flamethrowers and all of that. But generally, they were basically just like giant night suits. And that was pretty cool. Well, not giant, but they were like power suits pretty much. And I really actually liked that part of it. Like, that was cool. Like, I get why people would love it just because of that. Like, the fights you get out of those are really, really good. and just the idea of it is very fun to play around with. We'll get into some of the characters in a bit here, but as far as the cast goes, here's what I had to say. So you have a whole host of likable characters to carry the plot of the series. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of them at times, but they're in the likable range enough to make the story work. I didn't particularly find myself attached to any of them, though. So while I didn't hate the cast, like I actually genuinely don't hate them, I think they're all like good for this series. There was still kind of a distance there that never really had me hooked in. So, as opposed to like other series where you will get those characters who like really I don't know, draw you in. With Esca-Flow, a lot of times I felt like while the characters were good, they weren't bad, but they weren't bad characters by any means. They were still well written enough to not be a problem to the plot. I never really found one that was like, oh wow, I am like 100% behind this character. Kind of like when I watched Attack on Titan, I was all in with Commander Ervin. Like that was a character I was like, if I were in this world, I would be like riding right behind this guy every time, even to my death. Like he's fucking awesome. Never really had that with this one. Some of the cooler there are cool characters. Like Alan's a cool character. Vaughn is a cool character. Um, but I never really was in love with them the way I have been with other characters. It's not like it's an Okarun situation where I really love that character, or like with Kakashi Hatake or Jiraiya. Again, like the character work in this is good for the show. It just wasn't necessarily something that spoke directly to me. Anyway, here's kind of where my I guess we'll get a little bit into the complaints here in a bit. But I do think that the overall story maintains good pace and a sense of smooth, logical progression. So this is something I've been focusing on when it comes to isekai, is that every event sort of leads into the next. It isn't just sort of a happenstance thing of like, oh well, now this is just randomly the next thing that we've got to do. Every move the characters make is dictated by some sort of thing that actually leads to like a good, smooth transition into the next. A good example of this is with like how Mushoku Tensei sort of progresses through its plot. Where it starts out with like the family stuff, and Rudy starts thinking about wanting to go abroad and learn more and pay for Sylphie, which lands him a job with his distant relatives as Eris's tutor. And then because he is with Eris, the calamity happens and he gets teleported as well. That leads him to meeting Rougerd, their travel across the world from the demon continent back to their home, and then ultimately his going off to college in search of the few missing people from his family that are left. That's a good thing. That's a good sense of it. Similar thing happens with Esca-Flow, where at the end of like every encounter they have in their kingdom, there's a good, like logical, smooth transition from one thing to the next. Like they're moving on cleanly. It isn't forced. It's very good. And it keeps you going with the plot the whole time. It almost feels like it's one continuous thing, and you can't really cleanly divide it into the next. That's a good thing for a story that captivates people, that keeps people interested in it. You don't have that jarring break where all of a sudden they're doing something completely new. In spite of there being parts that were less than pleasant to watch, I won't start on the entire wedding debacle that happened about 2/3 through the series in this review. It's still a good show, and that's the big part where I do actually have a complaint. Is I know that there is a very heavy romance focus in this show, but anyone who knows me knows that when it gets to romantic tension, there are things that really start to grind my gears. And once we got to the wedding thing, where everyone like started having this whole like mess of feelings that they had to sort through and deal with, That started to annoy me because it felt like a bunch of tension that just didn't really fit the story. I didn't care for that part, and in fact, it was probably my least favorite part of the show, and why I only ranked it an 8 as compared to like or an 80 as compared to like a 95. That was a huge thing for me that I didn't like. But after it got through the wedding and it sorted a lot of those things out, it got good again. Like it went back to doing some of the things that I had liked in the first 2/3 of the series. So it recovered. It was good. Um, and the animation is great, and the fights with the Gaimeleks and everything all have the kind of weight and impact that you would hope for out of a mech battle. This is something that I think we talked a little bit about when we did the Evangelion uh fictionology that like Lethal Lightning brought up. Um it was like some of the newer Evangelions just didn't get the weight and the power behind the mechs right. They felt too floaty, too fast, too nimble when it came to the Evas. This does not have that problem. Like it nails the sort of power and weight that those swings would have very well. It makes it look really good when you're watching it. Like you're actually watching giant mechs fight. It's not at like supersonic speeds or anything. It's that part of it was a really satisfying part of Esca-Flow to watch. Like genuinely, that probably made most of the show for me. Was just the way that they nailed that visual aspect on top of the story. Um, and then ultimately, another complaint I had was ultimately that the villain of the story felt kind of anticlimactic. Uh, for having the slog through the slump of an arc centered entirely around the entangled knot of relationship drama, Dornkirk's finale was kind of less than ideal. So one of the things when it comes to villains is their downfall being satisfying kind of matters to me. And Dornkirk, while he had been like a pretty like interesting like menacing figure throughout the whole plot, felt like he went out a little too anticlimactically for me. And then at the end, it was kind of like, well, I don't really hate him or anything because he's just kind of out here philosophizing and being a dickhead, which is kind of weird. I'll get into that a little bit more later. But so like the whole series acts like it's going to build up to one big climactic moment, only to let you down at the end with how lacking Dornkirk was as a villain. Now, he wasn't terrible by any means. There are worse villains out there that I have seen. There are villains that I have thought were just terrible, and it's by no means one of those crappy Marvel villains that you'll get now who everyone has to sympathize with. That's the word I'm looking for. You still think Dornkirk's a piece of work. But at the end of the day, for a dude who's supposed to basically be Isaac Newton, like an immortal god complex Isaac Newton, it kind of felt just a tinge like I didn't get quite what I wanted out of the out of his being vanquished. For all of the predicting fate and controlling fate and doing all of this stuff to manipulate people into doing things, I felt like his downfall wasn't quite as satisfying as it could have been. And there could have been a little bit more tension, a little some more stakes in there with, confronting him than what we ultimately got. But other than those two complaints, the wedding arc and Dornkirk's demise, the show was really good. Like I enjoyed a lot of it. Like its world building, its designs, the concepts it plays around with, like those are all really good. The story's solid, the characters work well. So I honestly respect a lot of the people who do really love this anime. Because generally I had a good time with it. And I won't say otherwise, in spite of there being specific points that I have problems with. ultimately, you know, it's a cool show. I feel like it's a little bit overhyped by some of the people who have watched anime before me, but it's still cool. And it does a lot of things that I feel like modern anime should be focusing on a little bit more, particularly when it comes to that. We have the issue of how it dealt with the flying ships. They actually looked like they had unique designs for the whole the ships. They weren't, like I said, just boats with wings or boats with flying magic on them. I'm looking at you. Got kicked out of my A rank party, or I left my A rank party to reach the dungeon depths with my former students, or whatever the title for that one is. Like they actually looked like you would expect aerial vehicles to look like. The floating fortress thing too, that was pretty cool. Some of the other tech and stuff that they get into, I liked a lot of that. The romance element, I feel like probably would have been even better because there are good moments. Like when Hitomi and Vaughn reunite after she goes back to Earth, that was a really good moment. That genuinely was something I really liked. But I feel like the build up to all of that could have been done better if it hadn't gone for that sort of like love triangle romance drama bog that it had centered around that wedding. It's a nice change of pace considering what most isekais do today. Yes. Oh, the art style looks great, and the overall aesthetic is something that I feel like should get a little bit more focus. It is a very different experience, even from series that deal with the sort of like Magitech stuff. You can pull up more modern isekai that use like mechs and stuff. You can look at I'm the Evil Lord of an Intergalactic Empire. I still feel like as much as I do enjoy those series, when it comes to just pure aesthetic or like the creative concepts it uses as a series, it's very good. And I highly respect the things that they did with that because they did very well with them. Even for the stuff where they are just sort of like pulling technical jargon out of their ass, I didn't mind that as much as I normally would because they weren't abusing it. And the suspension of disbelief still held up because you were dealing with some interesting concepts, and all of the science of it was intriguing. I like them using the idea of like Atlantis and the ancient technology conspiracies and all of that kind of stuff. And those are pretty good. And yeah, I doubt anything is truly flawless. You can nitpick just about everything, even for like shows that I personally adore, like Free Run. I will still say that there are probably some issues it has. Well, it appeals to me immensely, and I would rate it a 10 out of 10. I wouldn't say that there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. Same with this. As much as I do harp on those 2 points, everything else it does is amazing. Everything else it does is really good. Vaughn as a character is more so the character kind of protagonist I like to see. I don't necessarily know if he counts as the protagonist. He's a hero in the story, but I don't necessarily know if he counts as a protagonist because I believe that's Hitomi. But he's someone who is able to quickly gain a level of self-awareness and development rather than having to bludgeon beat his head up against a wall over and over again to do so. So his development as a character was good. It's just not something that particularly made me like put him up there with, oh wow, yeah, like this is a character who I think is absolutely awesome. Same with Alan. I like Alan, and like his story is pretty well done, but not someone who grabbed even like Dylan Doll is an interesting character, but then again, that one was I don't know, it got a little weird there at the end. Yeah, cool conceptually, very cool conceptually. Does really good on a lot of the execution. It just has a few places where it stumbles. And that is it. So I would recommend people who are getting into anime to give Esca-Flow a try. It looks good. It's got a good storytelling. It doesn't dawdle or waste a lot of time in anything. It's just one particular, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 episode stint of the show where I feel like it really kind of does the wrong thing. So with that said, we're going to move on into this week's poll and what I'm going to be watching for next week's live show. And we're going to start taking suggestions from the chat. You mentioned Singer, and I gotta say that the intro was actually pretty catchy for Esca-Flow. And the music, I almost forgot to talk about the music. Like the music for like the background and everything was really, really good. So overall, that was cool. Okay, so we are going to open up a notes file here so I can keep track of everyone's suggestions. You know what? Why don't I just take notes down here? I'll put it up here, and that way I can. It'll be easier that way. So we already have muffler tape with Grimgar. And gotta share this tab. So we will share what it looks like. So to those of you who may not be aware of what's going on with this, so basically all of you in the live chat have the option to put out a suggestion, and it's going to go on the list of entries for tonight. Unfortunately, YouTube only allows 4 options. So if there's an anime you think that I should check out, or you would want me to check out, that is less than 36 episodes, something that I can finish within a week. We will put it on the list, and then from all of the options from chat, we will put one, and we will put 4 of them on the poll. And then the YouTube audience is allowed to vote, and whichever one wins the popular vote, like here we have Trapped in a Dating Sim by a margin of 1 vote this week, has won. That's what I'm going to be talking about next week. Did Tommy get hate? That's kind of weird. Last minute voting. Let's see. Wait, hold on. Muffler tape comes in at the fucking last minute here. And now we have a tie. We have a tie between Welcome to the NHK and Trapped in a Dating Sim. Oh. So if anyone hasn't voted now, you have the option to go and vote. So we have Marcel with Chio's School Road. Oops. And we have Readout Productions. It's been a while. How you been doing? With Blue Gender. Oops. I did not mean to do that. I had the wrong screen clicked. Okay. If I minimize that, will it make me normal again? Yeah, there we go. It's changing again. It's 40% again. This is great. This is great. All right. Well, we'll keep that there to the end of the night, and then if it's still uh being stupid, um, we will we'll do a coin flip. Nobody's won. Nobody has won. It's tied 40-40. Okay, so we're gonna move on to this, and if by the end of the night we'll revisit this when we make the poll. Okay. So you guys still have time to submit your suggestions if you want to put one on the poll. And when I'm done going over weeklies, we'll revisit it, and whichever one is there, it has the more votes. That's what we'll go with. Otherwise, we're coin flipping it. And there's some good stuff to talk about this week. So, without further ado, this is where we were at last week. Everyone's over here fucking swarming. So, we're going to start off the night with talking about May I Ask for One Final Thing. So, the Punch-Out Princess, the Lady of Beatings herself, Scarlet. So, round one with this whole shenanigans that's going on with the Church of Palmia, Scarlet and team win. We have Dragon Ball Biggles. We do have Julius getting jealous of Scarlet in all of this because she's getting hit on by this other prince and all of that. But I gotta say, there's some fuckery going on with Nodoka still being hypnotized and all of that, and seemingly doing things to Julius. So he's probably going to be hypnotized, and that's why we're gonna get our fight that's in the intro sequence. And then of course you have Terranetza being a bitch like always, and calling a spear or whatever the hell that is a staff. That's not a staff. That is a weapon, lady. There are blades on that thing. That is not a staff. But it was an entertaining episode to watch the whole thing unfold. We do get to kind of learn that our elf boy, who the half elf, turned out to be someone a little bit more important than you would have thought. But it was cool. A good episode. Not much to say about it. Real kicker though is Tojima wants to be a Kamen Rider this week. And this is the upset here. Is Tojima wants to be a Kamen Rider, I think, is at this point my top anime for the season. This, it has got to be. This episode was so freaking good, dude. Tojima is a unit. He is a tank, dude. And the whole slugfest between him and Yuriko was top notch. It was so good. It was so freaking good watching that fight. This week's episode was insane. Of course, we have Tackle winning this bout, but Tojima's just out here just breaking rocks with his fist. This dude fist fought a grizzly bear. That's hilariously awesome. And like I said, this is I kind of expected Tojima, since he was our protagonist, to be the one to go all the way. But no, it makes sense for the two with actual fighting skills to be the ones in the final round. Even though Tojima is clearly the for pure strength, he is the strongest. Like this dude's sending her flying without even connecting a punch. He also fist fought a grizzly bear. Just keep that in mind. So yeah, like hands down, best show of the season. I don't want to hear any other arguments. Brings us to Isekai Quartet. Put his mask on for life support purposes was my favorite line of the week. She also tanked a few shots even if they didn't connect, right? Yeah, I mean, as far as Yuriko goes, like I would say she deserves that win. But like goddamn Tojima, don't stop for nothing. Isekai Quartet is up next. So this whole episode is about being a gaming addict, which I felt a little bit criticized for. And the whole thing is kind of just, you know, making jokes at the expense of Naofumi and his aversion to Miko uniforms. And like everyone's like also bodying Kazuma because he won't show up for school. Meanwhile, everyone else is like doing just fine, showing up to school and playing games. But really I think the best part in all of this is like the whole like episode sets up the one joke at the end where the teacher logs on with his face cam on without realizing it, and everyone in his party is one of his students. Like it's a good episode. All right, Night Biggles, leave a suggestion if there's something you want in here in the poll before you go. Heinz asking if he's yes, that was a good one. That was another good joke that they threw in there. Like I thought that was pretty entertaining with that one. But overall, because these episodes are shorter, oops, I punched my mic. Because these episodes are shorter, there's not as much to talk about with them. So I mean, that's, you know, really the commentary. And again, we do with this one, we do have Julius just laying in the background in the infirmary. So campfire cooking in another world. So really the big thing of this is, you know, the group leaves Dolan and goes to rent a house and everything. Fell gets another bath and all that. It's more of the same sort of thing you would get every week, with enough variation to make the whole thing worth watching. Like we get another cooking segment, we get the whole sausages thing, and honestly, this episode made me really want some fucking brats. That's what I wanted out of this. I was sitting there like, you know what? If it weren't snowed over outside and everything, and if we actually had the stuff for them, I would go make myself some brats after that episode. Because I just kind of felt unfair, man. Like, I like sausages, Italians, brats, all that kind of stuff. I did go out and grill brats in the snow. I respect the dedication, dude. I respect it. And that brings us to my friend's little sister has it in for me. And this is going kind of how I figured it would, and I've been really enjoying this. So the first part of this episode is our guy Akiteru going and, you know, sorting out all the problems that he has with Iroha, and they get things back on track with the all of their stuff and move into dealing with the drama club at their school. So previously we had, you know, the teacher. Yes. So us weird ass Americans who are just too lazy to pronounce bratwurst, just call them brats. Anyway, so it's been very funny to me that they're like doing all the stuff with the club and all of that, especially because the little sister Midori is insane. Like her first thought when Akiteru is going to be helping them with their club and everything, like helping them win first place, is literally, oh, you just want to turn us into sex slaves. Like, this chick's insane. Like, she is absolutely insane. But hey, at least she's got the right impression of a Hollywood producer. um so yeah, I really liked this latest episode. Honestly, I'm moving it way up because it's been like with the play and everything. Like I talked about how like the whole like schizophrenic psychedelic experience that we got when we were first introduced to the drama club was really entertaining to me. Um with this episode, we get a little bit more of the character stuff and we get a little bit more into the character of Midori, of the teacher's younger sister and all of that. And there is the whole thing where they basically like intentionally vaguely allude to being gay just to put the girls at ease and everything. And the teacher's in the background like freaking out like a Fujoshi the whole time. It's great. Like this episode did a lot of things that I was really, really looking forward to. And yeah, I do agree. Like this show really has exceeded my expectations. For someone who was going into it expecting a love triangle rant, um, I've really liked it. I've loved how they've done everything. And that takes us to Ranma. Ranma. Okay. So this is one where like I kind of have to move this one down a little bit. So as we've been approaching the end of the season, it's been doing more and more things that I just haven't quite been into. So we had the whole thing with the play, the Romeo and Juliet stuff, where all of the guys are fighting to be Romeo because Akane is the one who's playing Juliet. So they all want to, have their chance to kiss her and everything. I did not enjoy all of the stuff that was going on with the play in this episode. Like I did not get into it. It previously the series had been pretty funny, it had been pretty entertaining. These past couple of episodes or so, I haven't really been as in love with its sense of humor or the things that it's been doing. However, they did do the whole indirect confession thing and then the fake kiss and all of that. So I thought there was some really good stuff in there. I liked those moments in particular. Especially, we have Ranma indirectly confessing his feelings for Akane. So here's the thing is once you get into some of like the backstory on the Fifth Floor Alliance stuff, I feel like the series improves dramatically. Those first few episodes weren't all that great. I would agree with you on that. But after that, it actually does get really good once you get to like backstory stuff. So yeah, Ranma is one that I do kind of have to move down. I wasn't as sold on it this week, in spite of the fact that it did something good. On the other hand, I am, changing this up again. I'm putting Gachiakta back up there because holy crap, they assembled the animation Avengers. Yeah, pretty much this. So they got Utapon, Chansard, and I believe the guy's name is Nakamura. A lot of really like highly talented animators. So for those of you who aren't aware, Chansard is one of the people who has worked on One Piece in these later arcs, especially with the Egghead Island stuff. He's done a lot of work for that. He's also done stuff for My Hero Academia, Vigilantes, and even one really well animated fight scene in ReZero. So him alongside of a couple of other people, we got some really good stuff out of Gachiakuta this week. But it wasn't just that. Sure, the animation was good, but we also got some really cool moments for Rudo as a character, like seeing how his powers work, like where his priorities and alignments are, and all of that, like his concerns and all that. And of course, we do have the whole thing with the whole cleaner crew approaching the border of the sphere. So we're going to see where all of that goes. There's some interesting lore stuff going on, and the villain's just sort of dipping out. But we have one last major fight that I'm really hoping they keep up the animation for, because as much as Mr. Hands over here was like a really cool, well animated fight, I'm hoping that they keep these guys around for the next couple of episodes to finish out this arc, because you could have a really strong finish for Gachi Akta if that's the case. The story's been getting back a little bit more to the stuff that I liked in the first core. The animation has really stepped up. It's been good across the whole thing, but they have been using very obvious effort and time-saving tactics. This one didn't do any of that. They were just full on, all right, you know what? Bring out the big guns. And it worked. It was a really satisfying episode. I get why some people would have complaints when it comes to Gachiakuta. I respect it. But I love everything that it's been doing lately. So that takes us to Inexpressive Kashiwada and Expressive Ota. So I've liked that they added the new girl in. She's pretty fun. But she doesn't really show up a whole lot in this episode. It's more so you get a new character introduced to the whole thing and a couple of really good moments. So I actually liked a lot of the bits that happened in this one. So our two main characters, Oda and Kashiwada, end up, doing the whole umbrella sharing thing that is so typical of romance anime. It's, a pretty stereotypical trope. And in the course of all of that, Kashiwada ends up with a cold and is out. Oda takes her the prince and all that, takes care of her. We do find out that Ota can cook. But in doing all this stuff to take care of this girl that he's concerned about, he ends up meeting her older brother. And he is interesting. Really, though, the part that I think was my favorite was the whole ice cream thing, where you have Kashiwada waiting in line to get, that whole ice cream stuff, the limited edition stuff that apparently Japan really, really loves to do. And her whole accident where like a kid goes and knocks it over before she can take a bite. And then you have Ota, giving up his ice cream to her. And there were some really good moments in this one. As much as it can be a little bit cliche at times, I've really enjoyed what it's been doing. In spite of that, I feel like it's executed pretty well on a couple of things. And even though it did have some more, I guess, sterile episodes in the middle there, it's kind of picked back up as it's introduced a couple of new characters and changed things up and kind of, progressed the whole relationship thing a little bit more. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if this one was just like a one season and done sort of show. I gotta respect the brother, though. He is genuinely concerned about his sister. Yes, like he honed in on Ota being potentially being a bully really quickly. So, all right. Now we have Yano-kun's Ordinary Days. So we have the birthday scavenger hunt that ends with Yoshida packaging herself up and then handing the and without the Alabama thing as far as hey, we're just starting to talk about your favorite, Yano-kun. So yeah, we have the whole birthday scavenger thing, which was fun to watch. And then, them at the end having their little exchange where she gives him his gift and all that, the drawing stuff. Your birthday present is me. that kind of stuff. And then they start doing the exchange diary, in which they spend a bunch of time just sitting next to each other, answering questions in the diary and drawing pictures and all of that. And it was fun. Really, though, we have now gotten to the question of Yano's eye patch and all of that. So it's going to be interesting to see what the explanation for that. I was hearing peak in my head. Right? So yeah, I have my like theory about his eye patch at this point, given that we know that it was injured, his eye is a slightly different color. So I'm guessing it's something like a, I don't know, a false eye or something. Like, who knows? Or it could just be, normal heterochromia or a scar or something. It doesn't seem like it's anything too terribly dramatic, but it could, it would be the kind of thing that kids would make fun of you for. Either way, I think it's been entertaining. We'll see what it is, I guess, in a short while, because at the very end of the episode, we do have that girl who comes in and is like, I knew it. He's still wearing the eye patch. So I look forward to seeing what they're going to do. But let's talk about Wild Last Boss. So, to those of you who watched the Biggles breakdown, you'll probably know that we had a bit of a discussion about this one on Monday, where we were talking about whether Dina was still a villain or not, whether she should be trusted or not. And apparently the answer is not. He's actually the girl from another. So, given everything that they talk about in this, it's kind of wild. There's like a really like they tell you without telling you who Dina is in this episode. So they talk about the omnipotent goddess and everything, and guess what we find out the omnipotent goddess's name is? Alavenus. The same name that the Devilkin had used to refer to Dina previously. And then, of course, there's the whole thing that she does with the Demon King and all that, and kind of insinuates that like the only person who could have pulled something off to limit Lufus's power would have been the omnipotent goddess herself. So it was an overall very good episode. Like, I feel like they set up some very interesting stuff. I do feel bad for Gance's daughter there, who's just like having an existential crisis after seeing that whole fight. Like that was some pretty wild stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how the hero performs and all this, because he doesn't particularly seem strong or anything, and his party kind of seems like an entire joke. It was a very well done episode. I do respect it. I thought it was a pretty entertaining piece. Holy shit, though! Like, Dina being, some malevolent goddess was definitely not something that I was expecting. So, all right. That brings us to Unlimited Gotcha. All right. So somehow Unlimited Gotcha manages to be simultaneously good and bad. Like, it sucks, but it's good. So there are certain elements to it that are like genuinely enjoyable. Like the whole like power stomping these elves thing. I thought that was pretty entertaining. That part of it is good. The animation for it has been pretty good. It has some very satisfying moments. However, the story in this show is a complete failure. And yes, we do have to wait another week for female Biggles to fight someone. She literally just had the "I am strong" moment. So a lot of the elves get their asses kicked in this one, and it is pretty satisfying. Like I said, that part of it is entertaining. The revenge part of it is entertaining. It's the satisfying part of watching this whole thing, but it is by no means a good show. Like I said, the story is a hard fail. Like, it doesn't do a good job of rolling out any of its main plot, and it gets so distracted by other things that it can't do the revenge stuff that actually makes it worth watching. Yeah, that's pretty similar. So either way, still no revenge. We're still waiting on what's going to happen with all this shit, but like, damn, are some of the kills satisfying, but that's the only thing keeping me watching this. That and the animation. The kills in the animation, those are cool. Those can stay. It's story about the maestros and all of that stuff. I could care less. Okay. Star brighter than the sun. Fuck you, Koki. Fuck you. Fucking okay. So up to this point, I'd been like, I hope that our main girl, gets with this blonde dude because that's the person she's been like after this whole time. After this episode, I'm just like, fuck him, move on. He was a little fucking dickhead in this episode, if you ask me. So we get the whole festival prep stuff. And now Kamishiro is falling victim to all of this bullshit where like he thinks Ayukawa and Iwa are going out. He thinks they have a thing going. So he's getting all jealous and everything. He's all freaked out like he doesn't fucking deserve her or any of that shit. And he just, won't confess or anything. He's being a little fucking twat this episode and then gets like pissy because he feels like, the girl he likes is going for someone else. Meanwhile, we do have Ayukawa being a good dude and, just generally, not being a dickhead. So we're cool. Still no confession. Still no confession. You fucking blue ball me on this shit. I'm gonna fucking. He's me for real, for real. So yeah. Star brighter than the sun could be doing better. Honestly. Like this one genuinely could be doing a little bit better. But for now, I don't know. It's been starting to grate on my nerves with how much they're going to blue ball me on this whole thing. Don't worry, there will be a confession in season 3. With the way they're going, I mean...
Is that right? You could be right. You're so right!
Okay, I guess that means we got to talk about my awkward senpai now. So I liked this whole thing, this whole episode, up until a certain point. So I really liked the younger sister and everything, and how she is like very clearly on to Kanawa, and how she feels about her older brother. And this whole like sick day visit and all of that. But the frustrating part of all this is that bro literally gets to like a confession scene and then is like, hey, let's be friends. Cunt. Are you kidding me? My guy, are you fucking kidding me? So they go from co-workers to friends, and that's probably about as much progression as I can expect out of this series. I didn't hate this episode. In fact, I should say that like I actually enjoyed this more than the past couple of episodes. But that whole confession thing where he's going to be like, "Hey, could we be friends? Could we go from co-workers to friends?" That frustrated me a little bit. Then we got to talk about Kotesashi. So, hands off Kotesashi-kun. This is one that I feel like I finally need to just move down to the okay category, because for as much as I like don't hate this show, its lack of story is kind of starting to get on me. Hard to get out of the friend zone once it's been established. Yes. So Kotesashi gets a massage in this episode, and it kind of turns out that volleyball girl is really like a natural and everything, and she kind of has a thing for him and is disappointed in the fact that he's not going to give her a massage or anything. When you were talking about Star, I thought you were talking about Autistic Senpai. Yeah, you know what? I get it. But then, of course, we do have this episode ending with, volleyball girl getting injured. So now it looks like he's going to unsoon the tsundere. Anyway, again, one of the big things that I have a problem with is, like, I don't mind, like, I've never been a huge, like, fan of it, but I don't have a problem with, stories that, like, are on the looter end when it comes to anime or manga. It's like a nice touch to a good story or to a romance or anything to show some actual like moments of intimacy and all of that with your characters. But it's never been something that is going to be the sole element to keep me going on something. Or to keep me praising something. So while this does have some nice titties and all that for being an ecchi anime and all that, it lacks a serious story in any department. Like, it doesn't really have much story. It spends most of its time just making blue tits her in the end. I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, I like things that actually have story to them. And this is more so just about like the story's way off in the background. Meanwhile, the massages are all happening in the foreground. So not necessarily like my favorite thing at this point, but I continue to watch it because it's been a step up from other ecchi anime that have released in previous seasons. Chitose is in a ramen bottle. Okay, so I think the blonde dude that they introduced in this that comes up to Saku and starts asking him about dating the girl, I'm pretty sure he's the stalker. Like sus radar went off the moment he showed up. We do have a bit of a funny moment with like Kenta's betrayal and all that. He gets locked into the class with the other two girls, and told that he doesn't have to do everything on his own. And then we do have a really good moment for Chitose himself. Where he's running around finding the girl's shoe, which is another reinforcing element to the idea that the blonde dude is a stalker, because we now know that her stalker is someone in her school someone who's been around for quite a while. And the blonde dude presents literally every flag that says he's the stalker. He shows up as soon as they start dating and starts asking questions. He says it was love at first sight at the entrance ceremony. So this was an immediate thing when it came to high school. And he goes to their school. He would know a lot of these things. So kind of weird. I did like the episode, but not enough to really move it up or anything. When it comes to Chitose, a lot of the times I don't find it as interesting as some of the other stuff that's going on. I mean, you missed me moving it down earlier since these past couple of episodes haven't necessarily been great. When it comes to Chitose as in a ramen bottle, I haven't really found anything that sticks out to me as something I really want to watch. Like, sure, it's entertaining. I feel like there could be some like good writing moments and stuff in here, but kind of in the same way like I experienced some parts of Esca-Flow, I kind of feel the same way about this. Like the characters in this are much more focused than they were in Esca-Flow. Whereas like they're good, but I just personally don't really care for them much. I don't get it. I'm not getting into this show, and there's just something about it that I guess isn't for me. However, I've been at it this long, so I'm going to keep going. I'm here for it for the rest of the season. So we'll see if my opinion changes. But right now it's like a 6 to me. All right. It's pretty pretentious. I get that feeling sometimes, but I don't necessarily hate certain elements of it. Like there are certain things there that I'm like, all right. You know what? This is something I like. And there are other times where it feels like, all right, now you're just fucking twiddling your dick here. Move on with it. Let's talk about Alma Wants to Be a Family. So we got the ghost of mature Alma in this one. Y'all are wrong, or maybe your taste is just trash. Rent a girlfriend, enjoy her. Anyway, I want to talk about Alma Wants to Be a Family, not argue about Chitose in the ramen bottle. Look, as far as this goes, I'm giving it to the end of the season to actually like give me some like to hook me, because I've watched my fair share of pretentious shit, but this one hasn't quite done it for me yet. We'll see how it goes. I'm leaving the door open for that one. Alma Wants to Be a Family. I'm not going to talk about Chitose anymore. So, like I said, goes to mature Alma. She takes her, high schooler form out for a spin, ends up helping the kid search for his key that was in his jacket the whole time. And yes, the top heavy shenanigans was pretty funny. We also get the whole summer vacation part where Alma basically crams their every day full of stuff to do at the end of summer vacation, and they end up exhausted by the end, and they're just like, we need to plan better next time. Well, I have fun with this show sometimes. It's not all the time. There are parts of it that I genuinely struggle with, and I enjoyed the mature, like the older Alma part, where like the kid is like, was she like a ghost or something? But that was probably where I think my entertainment out of this ended. Like, it was kind of just there after that point. Did feel like they missed an opportunity to advance the mom and dad relationship. Yeah, that probably would make that probably would improve my opinion of this if they had some sort of improvement, if they had some sort of movement in that regard. But no. Dad's the hero, mom's the spirit. I'm a reincarnated. So I'm really hoping Sawville is finally going to lock in and deal with his family because he's realizing that his actions have consequences and that he's been a dick to his daughter and his wife. We also have the whole thing with Ellen making medicine and them trying not to let her use like her powers too much or anything because she's very valuable with what she can do. And then the prince on a secret mission with a bunch of guys and the alleged kidnapping of Raphaelia. It looks like we could be getting into a decently climactic situation, but again, like I just don't care. They've kind of butchered all of the stuff about this that I was really interested in seeing. So I'm watching to the end, but I don't have high hopes for this series. Same with Sanda. I don't have high hopes for Sanda anymore either. Like I'm not a huge fan of this. Like we got the whole like first kiss between Sanda and the other chick this scene, and he's all like freaked out about this. It also turns out that Black Santa is a complete fraud. And Sawville is kind of shit. He's sympathetic at first, but he ends up just being kind of incompetent. Yes. By this point in this show, it's not. I don't feel sympathy for him. He's just incompetent, and he annoys me. The whole thing I thought about Black Santa was that he was going to be able to do whatever. I thought the way they talked about Black Santa was that he was going to be the wild one, the feral one. Like, oh, cool. You know what? Maybe we'll get some cool stuff out of this. No, he's just hugging kids over here. Like, what the fuck? All right. Well, I'm not specifically into this anymore. Like I'm barely hanging in there when it comes to Sanda. Like I wanted to like this one, but it turned into something that I just don't want to watch. So at the end of the day, I'm just kind of there. I don't really have much to say. It's just kind of one of those things where like I keep up with it, but I don't really have any thoughts on it. It's like, why would I bother really like digesting what Sanda is doing when I find so much of it kind of just obnoxious? So with that said, we're going to close this out. We're going to go back to our poll. And okay, so looks like Trapped in a Dating Sim has won with 45% vote. So that is where we are going to be next week. We're going to be talking about Trapped in a Dating Sim. So now, to those of you who are still in chat, you do have the option to put in your suggestions. Right now, we have Muffler Tapes has said Grimgar. Marcel has said Chio's School Road, and Readout Production has said Blue Gender. There is still one more slot, so if nobody claims that, I'm picking my own show. All right. Create post. Text poll. And Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be. All right, we got Arceus with Rainbow Days. I've already watched Devil as a Part-Timer. I don't know what yeah, America doesn't have any of those traditions, but I do know kind of what you're talking about because I have heard those. I've already seen Devil as a Part-Timer, like I said. So Rainbow Days goes on the list again. Black Santa, wanting a racism perchance. LOL. Well, when it comes to like, then I'm gonna back Muffler Tape. Grimgar is a fun, tight story. All right, okay. Well, then I think we're going to wrap it at that, with the choices being Grimgar, Chio's School Road, maybe I should verify some of these before I do anything stupid. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, there are 12 episodes. Okay, I can do that. Let's see what Blue Gender is. It's 26 episodes. All right. I can do that. And then there's a movie. 26 episodes is doable. I doubt this one's going to be a problem. Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions. That's 12 episodes. And then Rainbow Days. I'm pretty confident about that. Okay, so Chio School Road. Gar. Oh, you guys can't see this whole thing. I've had the wrong one up this whole time. So. And then we have Grimgar's on here twice, so we're going to get rid of this and do so Grimgar, Blue Gender. All right, so those are our options for the week. Thank you to everyone who made suggestions and who is voting on the polls and everything. So we will be talking about Trapped in a Dating Sim next week. That being said, well, it's back to heavy work this next week, so I will see what I can do about content and all of that. But I do plan to keep releasing videos like I did this week. So you can probably expect next Friday we'll have a whole video on Visions of Esca-Flow. And also I will probably be doing a video about Gotcha for Monday. So that's what I'm doing as far as videos. Wednesday, Crimson News Network, as always. And then, of course, next week we will be talking more anime, more manga, and Trapped in a Dating Sim. So with that said, I hope you all had a good one. I appreciate every one of you showing up, guys. It means a lot that, you watch the stream and that we actually had a pretty decent turnout for this one tonight. There were like 17 people in the chat in the stream at one point, it said. So that being said, Thank you all. I appreciate it. Hit the like if you haven't. Have a good rest of your weekend. It's time to sign off. So stay hydrated, maybe stay frosty, and definitely beat up some people while dressed as a magical girl.
Captain